Greetings, Nightfarers, and welcome to a special series here on Elden Dogs. You know me as Brad, you know me as Sir Gideonofnir, you know me as Ansbach. Today, you will know me as the Iron Menial. I will be kind of like the Alfred Butler type to your Batman, and I'm here to kind of just clean up after you, tell you what's going on, and I am here to talk to you about Elden Ring Nightreign. Now, for this Nightreign series we're going to be having, we have a new special guest host for these episodes, and I would like to welcome you to say who you are and say a little bit about yourself.
Well, in terms of this podcast, I am the Executor. I'm a mysterious character, often silent, prone to artistic offerings, and quite possibly a cursed soul trapped in armor. We'll just find out that together. So I've played quite a lot of Nightreign. I've completed most of the characters, bosses, and so I've completed most of the game, which is to say I really don't know anything about the lore. And so we'll discover that together. But I do have a lot of experience playing the game.
You definitely do. And outside of Elden Ring, who are you?
Yeah, I am A.E. Marling. I'm an science fiction author.
Very cool. I was fucking pumped when you told me that when we were playing.
Yeah. I discovered you through your podcast, and we ended up playing over Discord some games, and here we are, learning more about Nightreign
and we
together.
hope that all of our lovely Nightfarers that are here with us will be learning as well. Tyler, I found out on the last episode, Lady Freya, he told me that he hasn't even bought Nightreign yet, which I thought was pretty interesting. And that is because Nightreign is very much a different style of game. And I remember when it was just announced that Nightreign was coming, I was so perplexed because FromSoft has always kind of, at least the the Soulsborne games, they're very much carefully crafted single player narrative experiences. So the more I was learning about Nightreign, the kind of the more confused.
Yeah, it's just the opposite of all that. It is, I would say, feels a little slipshod, but it is very interesting and different. You can correct me if you know more about it, but my understanding is that just some FromSoft employee was probably fooling around, created a early version of this game and had some of his friends play within the company and say, hey, this is kind of fun. And it just got greenlit and flushed out quite a bit, but in my mind, it's still incomplete. So yeah, it's definitely, when I played Elden Ring was my experience of FromSoft. Incredible world exploration, felt very clean, there was a lot of balance issues, I suppose, but it felt like a very smooth playthrough and smooth game experience. And as I said, I feel like this is the opposite, but there's definitely something exciting here, and I'm happy to talk about the possibilities.
Before we get into any more Nightreign, you've played a whole bunch of Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree as well.
Yeah, that's fair to say. My introduction was there. I played a ton of that. I went back and played the Souls games and Bloodborne
and
as well.
Did you go back and play those after Elden Ring? Okay, Elden Ring brought you in. Yeah, Bloodborne was my first experience, but everybody that's listening probably knows quite a bit about my experience with Elden Ring. But like you were saying, this game is directed by Junya Ishizaki. They are a long-term FromSoft employee. They did map and event planning for Dark Souls in 2011. They planned Steel Battalion Heavy Armor 2012. I thought that was interesting. They were a game designer on Bloodborne, lead game designer on Dark Souls 3, level designer on Dark Souls Remastered, and then the battle director for Elden Ring. And they were cooking up an idea about this multiplayer experience, and mad props to Miyazaki for seeing young talent or seeing talent and just like letting somebody grow from within the company and taking chances, which I really do appreciate.
Yeah, Miyazaki probably saw that there was something exciting and interesting here. And you did mention multiplayer. That is how it was conceived. However, after the release, they have introduced a reasonable and good solo experience. So if you don't want to play with other people, you can play most characters successfully solo. Some of them are a little more painful than others, I would say, to play solo, and in part because some, like the Revenant, are meant to be played in a team. It's like a support character. But you can have a reasonable experience solo. But again, that was not introduced when it went live. So updates like that, I continue to expect to see them. And I continue to expect to see the game become more complete and exciting and welcoming to players.
Yeah, and I imagine you've probably played with each one of the Nightfarers a decent amount.
All but the Raider.
Okay. What about the Raider has not drawn you in yet?
Yeah, that's painful because really I identify as an Oonga Boonga character. I like nothing more than taking a brick hammer and just mashing Radagan with it, just getting Warcry, just tanking all of his hits and just destroying him. I think I got him before he entered his latter phase. He didn't even get to complete some of his ground slams. That's my preference, and that's really kind of what the Raider is supposed to be. But in Elden Ring, each character, it's not really a blank slate like it is in Nightreign. Each character is very distinct. And they have not only very distinct aesthetics and story, but also skills. They have a passive skill, an active ability, and then an ultimate art. So those are three distinct things: passive skill, activated ability, and then an ultimate art, which you also activate. And the Raiders' skill and activated art, ultimate art, neither of those appeal to me. So although he is an Oonga Boonga character, just so happens the distinctness of his class does not excite me. So that's another thing unique to Nightreign. There are these distinct classes.
It's very different. They kind of have you pick a lane when you start, and you can start off as the Duchess, and they want you to play with daggers. You can pick up other spells like Catalyst. You can pick up colossal weapons, but those characters each also have like a predilection. They have like benefits to certain weapons as well. So they do want you to kind of you should kind of play to your character's strengths anyway.
Yeah, perhaps before we get deep into that sort of thing, we should talk about the top level of why you might be excited to play Nightreign and why you might be hesitant to play it. Because I would love to go into the depth of what characters can and cannot do, but perhaps we should lead with.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. Top level, I saw the trailer, and what you see right away is Elden Ring. So what you see is Elden Ring combat, you see Elden Ring enemies. So if you like them assets, if you like seeing, Margit the Fell Omen, and you like fighting giant magma worms, there's gonna be at least that going for you.
Yeah, if you like getting just whipped on by Margit, this is the day. There's some enticement here. He has new lines, and he will come at you when you least expect him. So one reason you might want to play Nightreign are these assets. The combat is the same as Elden Ring, largely speaking. And if you have the fun of finding your favorite weapon and using it, for instance, if you love the Blasphemous Blade.
Shout out Tyler.
And you use it all the time. Yeah, shout out to Tyler. Then you can get it. And there are some differences here because it's a random drop, and because this is a legendary, I think it's a legendary. Yeah, it's got to be a legendary. It will be rare, but when you do get it, it will be special, and then you get to dominate with it. The final bosses, you get to dominate with it. No one will tell you you're wrong for using it. No one will say, oh, that's cheap using the Blasphemous Blade. In fact, if someone else gets it and it's appropriate for your character, they will give it to you and just say, please use this on the final boss.
You're being super generous, AE, to say that, okay, this is getting to a point of why you may not like it. Because when you're playing with a bunch of randos, a lot of them don't know who you're playing as. They don't know what the goal is. They are running forward, collecting every item in front of them, ignoring the fact that you're a party. You should be helping each other. And my experience before I started playing with you was one of confusion, alienation, and no camaraderie. And that was extremely frustrating. Playing with someone who knows what's going on, like yourself, we were able to like, hey, I got this awesome, holy incantation. Do you want this? And you'd be like, yes or no. And the voice chat when you're playing with someone you know is super special.
Yeah, there is this incredibly harsh. So the one big reason you might not want to play the game is there's this incredibly harsh learning curve. And it's compounded by the multiplayer element. When no one knows what's going on, the experience is real rough.
Oh, yeah. That's all I was doing for a while, too. It was very rough.
This is a roguelike game in the sense that each run gets better as you gain knowledge. And that's the main thing you get every run. And it gets better as you learn more. If you do more research, you watch more videos. As you gain more knowledge, each run will get longer or better. And as you get to know people, then it will get better still. As I continued playing, I was able to friend people over the PlayStation at least. And now when a new boss is released, I say, hey, do you want to... I'll message these people, hey, do you want to get in this? And we will work very well together as a team. We understand what the rules and the goals are. And so now if you have that team of good Elden Ring player, or at least friends to start with, you'll have a huge advantage. If you have one person who knows what they're doing and you can talk to, that'll be a huge advantage. But if you don't have any of that and you're just going in blind, as I said, that learning curve is going to be tough. It's going to be frustrating, and that's going to be compounded over multiple characters all learning together and doing badly. Just imagine when you first fought Margit, for instance. That was a tough experience, and now just place three players in that experience together, and no one really knows what's going on. You definitely can have some triumphs, but it is going to be tough. I would estimate it took me about 12 hours before I really felt at all comfortable with the game or started enjoying it. And that's I would say a pretty inexcusable learning curve for just have a game where it just feels awful for the first 12 hours.
It's like a Kingdom Hearts game.
Yeah, actually, I'm not familiar with that game, but
don't be.
To my mind, this game is incomplete because the tutorial is so woefully insufficient. What I would like to see, for instance, is to have a version of the map. What is it? Limveld? Is that what you said? Limveld? A version of the Limveld which you can explore and play without a time limit, without the...
Could you imagine? That'd be so fun.
Yeah, without the end bosses. So you could play like 2 days worth. And you could get some merc going forward, but you wouldn't get the merc from the final boss. You couldn't confront the final Night Lord of that day. So that's what I'd like to see. That would give you the chance to explore a very basic open world and get familiar with some of the simple structures and gaining levels, that sort of thing. But currently that's not available. And what you have is like a 5-minute tutorial where you do get beat up by Margit. And really it doesn't do anything for you. And then you have to either play solo or multiplayer and just get pummeled, as I said, for basically 12 hours. So that's a pretty big reason to not play it.
If one thing that really sticks out to me is when I was playing by myself, it's very confusing to know how to read the map because everyone's moving so fast.
So fast.
When you're dropped in, like before as soon as we land, you would say like, all right, there's a poison camp and there is this area over here. We should go there first. And was nice about playing with you is we would go to like, what is it? Like the great church or one of like the big ruins. And you said, There's going to be some staves up high. I have to run up there and get them. If you did not communicate that to me, I would never go explore up there because to me there's no time.
Oh, yeah.
No time to go find stuff. And you'd say, hey, there's bows in this camp. You're playing Iron Eye. You should go check this out. And that would be something really cool that could be illustrated in kind of like a tutorial, or like just call it free roam to put it in the parlance of Mario Kart World. Like just go explore. And it's penalty free. You won't level up. It's kind of just a hangout. See what's down there. See what you can find. It's confusing. It's very disorienting.
Yeah, because one of the top line differences between this and Elden Ring is the time limit. So in Elden Ring, you have a sense of wonder and exploration and limitlessness. And in Nightreign, because of the time limit, you have a sense of excitement, urgency, and what you might describe as just panic.
Pure panic.
You don't have time to comfortably search and explore. You do have to know. And even I have to spend time. Sometimes I feel like I spend too much time exploring and getting the items I need. It's this constant trade-off of running, or exploring and getting the items you need. And you just kind of have, like Elden Ring, it's expected that you talk to other players outside the game, get the information you need. Within the game, you can't talk very well in terms of the mechanics they've given you. You can only point, basically. You can point to a place on the map. And you can point to an item. You can't even say which character you hope picks this up. That's the most they can do now, and it feels inadequate. What I need to be able to say is, don't go there, you're going to die, and we're going to lose horribly, and we're going to be embarrassed and cry. That's often what I need to say. Like that, Blackblade Kindred is going to eviscerate you, it's going to one-shot everyone. This is a horrible risk. The night is closing in, let's not do that. But what I can't say that. All I can say is, all I can do is point multiple times. And then if you just point multiple times, that people can get annoying, and it's tough.
It's like having a cat. It's like you hope the cat wants to hang out with you and wants to be a part of your evening. But, maybe the third Nightfarer that you and I are playing with, they just fuck off. They don't want to be a part of anything. They just wander off and die immediately. Or they have the idea that they should go to a different part of the map. And it's so fast paced. Like you were talking about how you feel that's like sometimes you take too long. By the time I have started looking through items, you have selected an item, pointed at the item you didn't want, and you're already sprinting away to the next thing. And it's such it's very brutal.
Brutal is definitely how I would describe the learning curve. And I have messaged the company in terms of left feedback. Again, the game feels incomplete. And so that's a reason to wait and not play it yet, unless you have a friend who plays it. Or if you're a member of the Discord, for instance, the Elden Dogs Discord, then they can walk you through it, and you won't feel as just devastated. It is the learning curve you felt in Elden Ring is nothing compared to this game. And if you think that your experience in Elden Ring or Souls in general are going to save you from this learning curve, it definitely helps, I'm sure. I can't imagine not having that experience.
Something that I was talking about way back when I was playing Bloodborne for the first time was I wish there would be my idea for the Chalice Dungeons would have been like a different roguelike experience, because there were so many different cool, fun weapons and like different builds, but you're limited in your upgrade materials. So as far as having weapons you can switch to that are super viable, it was limited. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if you could just go into a Chalice Dungeon and then get a different weapon, and it'd be kind of more of a roguelike experience where your build evolves as you play and it's different every time. Which is, I'm a big roguelike fan. I love Hades. I love Balatro. It's fun organically becoming a certain build. And you might be like, hey, I love Blasphemous Blade, but I found this other weapon. And maybe I want to use this one instead. And it's fun that it's different every time. You don't know what bosses you're going to face. And I do like that element of it a lot.
Another wonderful thing about the game is that it just feels like such a triumph when you get Elden Stars, for instance. That might be a spell you enjoyed from Elden Ring. It definitely has a lot of utility in this game as a source of holy damage. And it just feels like such a triumph. But also, you get a chance to use some of the suboptimal spells, because it is random, that you may not have used in the core game. And so just the excitement of, I have a lightning spell. It's not my favorite lightning spell, but it's going to be good against this enemy who's vulnerable to it. Or as a recluse, I need this lightning damage to mix in my spell cocktail. So there's a lot of incentive to use underutilized spells and enjoy them and find the excitement in them, even if they're not the best in slot spells. So not only do you get to use your favorite swords and things occasionally, but you also get to appreciate the greater range of weapons within the game. For instance, I know I've used some of those, like the great sword, which does bleed, which is like the forked, I don't even know what to describe it, but some of the great swords which deal bleed, which I never really played in the base game, I played and just was like, oh yes, bring it on. I'll take a great sword which bleeds, even though it's like it's the gargoyle's forked tongue breaks great sword or something like that. Something obscure you would not use in the base game.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't even think about, unless you're on some very strange guild. You will play, and you'll play lots of these abilities, lots of these weapons. And that's very exciting. And some of them might be the perfect option for the boss. And what boss you face will determine that. So there's a variety of different bosses, what they're vulnerable to. At the end of the run, the Night Lords. And so what you play will be determined on that. So there's a lot of variety baked into the game.
When the game is working best to me is when you and I are communicating and working together and we have goals. And I remember playing, I mean, that's when I loved Destiny 1 when I was playing a bunch of that. But this goes all the way back to the original Xbox when I just played so much Halo 2. And you'd be in a random group of people and you could hear everybody. I wish that this game was trusting enough. Let us choose to mute people if we want to, but by default, we should have voice chat as an option when you're paired up with somebody. And then if someone is an annoying 8-year-old talking smack, just mute them. But I wish that we could just communicate by default with the players we're matched with, because that would, I think, increase the value of this game tremendously.
Yeah, the default is no voice communication. And I will tell you, when I play with my my very skilled teammates to take down these Everdark Night Lords, we don't use voice chat, actually. We use just the signaling, and that is enough for us because we know what's going on. That is certainly not enough for beginners, and that's where the game really, I feel, needs to adapt.
Yeah, this game received generally favorable reviews, sold 2 million units within the first 2 hours, 3.5 million units within 5 days. We'll do just a brief discussion of the setting. In a later episode, we're going to talk more about the lore, but essentially 2 separate timelines. The Shattering is the same. That event, everything up to the Shattering in the Lands Between happens, and then the timelines split. So on the night of the Black Knives, assassins killed Godwyn with the stolen Rune of Death. Marika then shatters the Elden Ring. The demigod children then war, and then the events of Nightreign begin to take place. The story becomes very interwoven with our Nightfarers, like I said. We'll talk about that on another episode, but suffice it to say, you're going to see familiar factions, familiar enemies, weapons, bosses, but also it's the multiverse. Everything's multiverse. We're going to see stuff from Dark Souls, which is, I think most people were cautiously excited about.
Yeah, so Souls games diehards will have a lot to like here. Not only have some bosses been ported into this game, some of your favorite bosses from the past games. The Nameless King is one I remember. And let's see, the Gaping Dragon, I think. Yes, and the Smelter Demon is another one. And the Dancer of I forget what it's the full name, but the Dancer one from Dark Souls 3, I think. And that's an exciting and terrifying boss is here as well. And I look forward to seeing possibly more. Those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. Then there are the Elden Ring bosses. Those are all in the days 1 and 2. And then in day 3, you face a Night Lord, which is a unique boss. And they are often very complex and exciting. And definitely some of the top level, we're talking like millennia level of thrilling boss.
They are all stunningly designed, just beautiful models, beautiful attacks, fun, challenging. But yeah, I'm a big fan of all the different designs for the Night Lords, especially, the Equilibrious Beast, and you got the Centaur. Like, they're all just like very fun and intimidating immediately.
This game also has the open world. It has an open world, and you get to choose where you go. But what you may not know is that it also has epic dungeons. These are random events which happen occasionally. Some of them feel more like open world, but some of them have definitely an epic dungeon feel. But again, it's different from the traditional Elden Ring experience or Souls experience. Like, these are epic dungeons that you don't have time to explore thoroughly. You have to run through them. So you'll either feel like you're in a labyrinth and the Minotaur is chasing you, or someone will know where to go and you hopefully will follow them, or you will know where to go and you'll hope other people will follow you through these labyrinths. And if you get to the end, there'll be a huge reward. If you don't make it in time, it'll be tragedy. It'll be travesty. So there are these epic dungeons, but they have a different feel than Elden Ring and traditional Souls games.
Yes, this game is Elden Ring on crack. You will be moving extremely fast. There is no fall damage. You're going to be sprinting and jumping up mountains like it's Skyrim. It's fast paced, and I mean, it's going to be a lot of asset reusage, which is something that is a downside to me, is seeing the same huts, the same, ruins, the same churches. And I like the way they mix it up where, there'll be different elements associated each time you drop in. I do appreciate that. But Limveld, apart from, when the map does change, I don't know. I wish that it had more variables going on, just geographically as well.
Well, maybe but again, every variable you add is another level of complexity, which is tough for beginners. But when the map changes significantly, it's called a shifting earth, and the changes are exciting. But again, it's another thing you have to learn. And as I said, some of those epic dungeons come from the shifting earths, and they can be very difficult for new players. But as an experienced player, I find them thrilling. In fact, I can purchase them as a late game player, and when I know that a specific shifting earth is going to give me an advantage against the final boss, I have the option to pick it. Early players have the option to opt out of it, because they can feel intimidating. Usually, that's if you know what you're doing, they give you a huge advantage. Another thing old Souls players may appreciate is that you can customize your character to look like past Souls characters.
To me, none of it's far enough, though. I want them to double down and go, the armor customization, I think, is too weak. And that's something that I think would enhance the Relic game as well. I'd prefer it if you got like a certain set of armor, like Mesmer's chest piece, and it had these different attributes. I would prefer that as a sort of way as a meta part of the game where you can keep getting advancements throughout that way, and then you can customize your armor. The relics, I think there's more to that I would like, but it's cool that you have access to these old armors, but I wish it didn't feel just like low-level fan service and there was more to the armors, like maybe certain quests to unlock them.
Yeah, I feel it's high-level fan service, but the armors are aesthetic, so you get to choose just how your character looks. And when you customize your character, kind of what you would expect from a roguelike experience, that's what's called the relic system. And Again, from the vantage point of a late game player, the relic system feels good, except you cannot. It feels good and bad in the sense that I feel the relics allow for enough customization of your character. I'm satisfied there. What I'm not satisfied by is how you search through the relics, and you have no way to easily search through the relics.
Yeah, I wish there was a filter for like flame perks, rot perks.
Like if I need something which gives me, I can't easily search for gaining protection from magic, for instance. That is an element you can have on these relics. But if I'm facing a boss which can deal magic damage, it's a lot inconvenient to search through my relics to find that. So again, that's an element where I feel like the game is not complete. Like this feels like a game in early development, and to my mind, it's a very fun game, or early access. Pardon me. This feels like an early access game, and that can be very fun. But to my mind, it is incomplete. So if you're the sort who enjoys early access, you might enjoy it. If you enjoy these other elements of Souls games, you might love this game. But if you're like, I'm not in for a rough onboarding experience, or I don't tend to like early access, then maybe you might hold off.
Now, before we get too lost talking in some of the more advanced elements of the game, let's just start kind of at the beginning, and we're going to kind of go through the starting experience through a day, 3 days in Nightreign. So when you start the game, there's the tutorial, but what I want to talk about is the Roundtable Hold. And the Roundtable Hold will be familiar to everybody that's played Elden Ring. This is going to be your base of operations. This is where you can customize your character, interact with the story in whatever way you want. One of the first characters you meet is myself, the Iron Menial. You'll see that they are a marionette soldier, the same ones that are in Raya Lucaria. This one has been reprogrammed to help as a manservant. I love the Iron Menial. I think he's a fun addition.
You have a curiously large presence in the hold. This is the Roundtable Hold, and you're very much you're really facilitating everything. You're like the computer on Star Trek ship, so you're pretty important. A curiously large part of the plot. You really touch every character's remembrance quest line.
Yeah.
One thing I do enjoy is that you have the playable characters, but while you're not playing them, they will be in the hold, and they will be major actors or maybe minor actors in your quest lines for every other character. For better or worse, Iron Menial is really a major player in everyone's quest line, but if you have another character you kind of like, you will often see them interact with you on the quest lines of another character you're playing. And I like how those characters interweave. When you enter the Roundtable Hold and you try to talk to a character, they won't say very much, which is a little disappointing. But if you start your quests, then they will begin to talk to you, and you'll find that they often are helpful, or you'll find, they'll interact with you for better or worse.
You will find the expedition table right in the center where the large grace is. This is how you see the list of available expeditions, the targeted Night Lords. You can see their weaknesses. There are matchmaking settings for this game. You can go offline solo or online co-op, set up a multiplayer password, and then gestures to help communicate. The character selection, you can switch between the various Nightfarers, so you can choose which ones you want to be. You can also set the relics that you have available. We'll get into relic rights in a little bit. Change your garb. Some other things you can do here, the Visual Codex. The Visual Codex lets you access the in-game handbook, which contains information on mechanics, combat, lore, and records of your previous expeditions, which those are really cool, actually, being able to see where you ran around on the map and what kind of happened. I was kind of poking around with that the other day, which is pretty fun. I imagine you probably have hundreds of expeditions on there.
Yeah, it occurs to me I could go back and count how many ever jails I open on every realm, because that is significant. But we'll come back to that. But I think the Visual Codex, going back a few steps, is important because it will tell you a lot of the things that the game otherwise doesn't tell you, and you have to search it out. And although Elden Ring players have a leg up in the sense that you're familiar with a lot of this stuff, a lot of the rules have changed, and those changes will be described in the visual codex. To name just one, though, if you eat a bolus in this game, it will not only cure you of a condition, remove the buildup, but it will also give you resistances in the future towards that status effect, and will heal you a tiny bit. So that's an example of something that it will tell you in the visual codex, but it's not exactly the same in this game.
I had no idea.
Yeah, surprise. You didn't read that entry of the visual codex. So there'll be, I guess I'll drop more changes as we come to them. But yeah, the visual codex is important even if you're an experienced Elden Ring player.
Yep. The journal is where you can access your different Nightfarers' personal quest lines. This will be unlocked after a while as well, where you can learn more about each characters, and then you'll have remembrance quests. We'll talk about that in a bit, but the journal, then there's the sparring grounds, which the sparring grounds is fun. This is where you can kind of try all the different weapons and spells, sorceries, incantations. You can and get used to your abilities for your different Nightfarers. This is good practice if you wanted to try something out. Other things in the Roundtable Hold, like you mentioned, the other characters, probably the best coolest thing is the small jar bazaar. The merchant is what you can buy is cool enough, but the fact that it's a small jar just decked out in coins like chain necklaces, I love the design so much.
He is hilarious, and you will make him so filthy rich. He is just blinging out. You can tell he loves the wealth, and that's good because you're just going to feed him everything. It's this adorable little jar, and he communicates. He doesn't talk. He communicates with a chalkboard, which is additionally hilarious because he seems to be just drawing himself on the chalkboard. So he might have just he could have just mimed what he was trying to communicate, but instead of miming directly, he's too cool for that, I guess. He just will draw himself on the chalkboard, miming something.
Yeah. We'll talk about the various Nightfarers and their abilities later on, but I have a feeling if we open that can of worms, that'll be hard to get away from. And yeah, we'll have an episode really diving into all their abilities and their lore, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the map overview. So you choose an expedition, you and your potentially yourself or a couple other Nightfarers, you fly in. People have compared it to Fortnite. I have never played Fortnite, but you drop into a map. And but before I even drop in the map, as soon as it loads, you have already scoured the map. You know how to read what's happening. And like, what's the first thing you look for when you open the map?
Well, so the first boss people will face is the three-headed beast, and we'll tell you this ahead of time. Before you even begin this quest, it will say he's vulnerable to holy damage. So when you look at this map, I will first look at camps where you are more likely to get weapons which deal holy damage, and or where I'm hopefully able to get spells to deal holy damage. The latter is less. It's harder to find areas where you get the right spell damage.
You know the boss's weakness, and then you're seeing if there's a little sigil, if it's weak to lightning, you'll see if there's a lightning camp.
Yes. Now, the problem is the lightning icon looks almost identical to the holy icon, and that's another thing.
I definitely have made that mistake.
That's another thing. It's so bad that players will often be attacking the boss with the wrong weapon equipped because they think it does lightning damage, but it actually does holy damage, or vice versa. That's not good. That's something which, again, they ought to change. But if you get out your you get magnifying glass, you can tell the difference between holy and electricity sights. Then you kind of know. Now, when you enter, say, this boss is vulnerable to holy. You can enter a site and see no holy on the entire map. That's just how it goes sometimes. That doesn't mean that you won't find any, but it's less. You don't know where you'll find them. You're less. So if there is a holy site, you can run there and you have a pretty good chance of getting a holy weapon. Again, not true of spells, but you have a reasonable chance of getting a holy weapon there. But there could be none, but you can still hope that you'll find a unique or legendary holy weapon dropped by some of the tough bosses or just randomly. So, so if you see these, that's one element. And then the second element is that you need to be able to gain experience and gain levels in a somewhat safe fashion. And so there are some sites which it's easy to gain easier than others, and it's helpful to know where to go first.
Various things you'll notice on the map marker. Sites of grace. Everyone is familiar with a site of grace. Here, you run by them. You just smack through with your button. And these will restore HP, FP, flask charges, and remove status ailments. So as soon as you defeat a fair number of enemies, like right when you drop in, there'll be a layup, some easy enemies. Always go through the process of defeating them 6 or 7 enemies to get to level 2. It'll make a big difference right away.
Yeah, I should restate that, though. They will throw you down. And there's a camp in front of you with some easy monsters, 6 or 7, and some loot of various kinds. That's randomized. You do need to do that. Don't feel like you're too cool or too smart or in too much of a rush to skip that. The first level between 1 and 2, it makes your character like twice as survivable. If you skip that first site, which unfortunately many people do, the run's already in a bad spot. You'll go to a different area, probably die multiple times, embarrass yourself, slow down the team. You can, within a few minutes, kind of tell how the quality of players you're playing with based on whether or not they try to skip that opening camp. Do not skip it. Go to that opening camp. I would even open all the chests there, look at the items, spend a few seconds there.
Doesn't hurt.
Well, every second does hurt in a sense, but it's worth it to kill those monsters and then level up. Don't just kill them and don't level up. When you go to a grace, you will be healed automatically if there's no enemies nearby. If there are enemies nearby, you need to kill them first, and that's a big deal sometimes. But if there are no enemies nearby, you'll automatically heal. Then you'll select. There's a button to select the grace. It's triangle on PlayStation. And then you hit X to level up. It takes a few seconds, but you do have to remember to do it. And again, that's something that you can forget because you're in so much of a rush in this game. But if you don't do it, you're going to just likely get one shot by the monsters that you face next. And one of the areas which is safer to go to is a fort. You'll see these on the map. They can have affiliation with magic or no affiliation. The ones which you'll see a magic icon. That they have a Crystallian boss, which is often pretty tough. So, try to get a shield. Like if you're a caster or using a bladed weapon, try to ground up a shield or some sort of blunt damage to face this Crystallian. As a caster, I've often just picked up a shield, two-handed that shield. They also have staves too, so they're of particular interest to casters. They are also a source of stone sword keys, and they also have maps which reveal power-ups or treasures in the surrounding area.
Stone sword keys, you mentioned them. Those are always good to get. Everjails. They're generally always worth your time, right?
They can be, or they can be horrible. It depends. But you get the keys to open them. That's one of the locations, these forts.
You'll also want to make sure to hit up churches, at least get through a handful of churches between day 1 and 2. This will get you flasks, and you'll want these sacred flask upgrades because you will need them for the Night Lords. These are your primary method of healing for most of your Nightfarers. And the churches, do they always spawn in the exact same spot?
No, they're random too. So You can have a cluster of 3 of them, or they can be all kind of hard to find, or they tend to be at the corners of the map. not in the center, and so they are often constricted. So one of the first things you will hear if you explore different tutorials or help guides is that you do need these churches because you need the flask. Obviously, imagine going into a fight millennia and in a day and you only have 3 flasks. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And that is a scenario you will face if you don't go to these churches. You will get 1 automatically on the end of day 2, but otherwise you do have to get this.
I did not know that.
Yeah, at the end of day 2, you get 1 flask automatically. Now, whereas you do need to get these churches, if you just run from church to church, you will definitely lose. So there is a tension. You have to understand you do need these flasks, but if you prioritize these flasks above all else, you'll go into the final battle under-leveled, and it'll be just as bad. You'll get to 1 shot. What good is a flask going to do you if you get 1 shot all the time? It's not going to help. So one mistake I see a lot is skipping the first camp. The second biggest mistake I see is just running from church to church. So I'll be repeating that. Don't do that. Don't do that, please. It will make your teammates so aggravated.
Something that I misunderstood when we were playing too is, so we know you're going into a Night Lord that's going to have a certain weakness, and I have a relic that says, starting weapon now has poison damage. And so I know, all right, I need to get smithing stones. And to me, I become very concerned with, we need to go down to the, what is it, the underground, the caverns, the mines.
The mines, yeah.
The mines. And you would say, no, it doesn't really make sense to head there now because maybe we're at the wrong side of the map and our time is, even though I might want to upgrade my weapon, I still have the damage that'll be crucial to the boss, and it doesn't make sense to get all the way over to that part of the map at that point.
It's the same thing for churches in the sense we will need to do that, but what you can do strategically is determined by what's close to you. If you run across the map, you'll probably end up losing the game. Now, there are faster ways to travel across the map. We'll cover those later. But in general, your priority is to do what's close to you. Now, you can kind of meander towards a direction you think it's going to be profitable. But along the way, you have to be completing objectives.
And you mentioned forts. There's also great churches, which are large chapels that'll have a mini boss. There are townships, main encampments, ruins. These are all different enemy encounter scenarios that'll have different expectations. You can expect to find a mini boss down in the basement. You can expect to find a stave up on the 2nd floor, a bow here. They all have certain kind of things you expect from these locations as well.
The great churches, I think of them as cathedrals. They're dilapidated, abandoned cathedrals. That's the place you find sacred seals. But what you find there is completely random and is not determined by any icon you do or do not see there.
Okay. So you don't know what you're getting there.
You don't know what you're going to get. That is a difficulty. So finding holy damage is often hard if you're a caster. That's something, again, which I feel like they might change going forward, but finding holy damage, very difficult for these faith-based casters. Now, the great churches will have different varieties, and where these seals are located will vary depending on the church or the cathedral. I guess we'll go into that detail later. So the churches are another good place to go early levels, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 churches, forts, and the next one's townships. The township is the safe zone where you find a merchant. You'll see a variety of merchants. Every fort has a merchant, and every encampment has a merchant. And the castle has 2 merchants, but the township has a merchant will sell some really great stuff, high-level stuff, which costs a lot. I do like going there. It's a safe zone. Some maps won't even have one, though, as far as I can tell. So,
I feel like the ruins, those are medium-sized underground passages holding chests and loots. Sometimes features a mini boss. Is that the ones where we'll sometimes find the rune bears?
Yeah. So they're often a little bit harder. That's still something that you could potentially do level 2 through 7, and they can be tough though. The poison one has like high pages, which just can rip you a new one.
Oh yeah, in the base game too, or in regular Elden Ring.
Elden Ring players should be familiar with the pages. It's, if anything, worse in this game because the pages have backup. They have, anyways, they can be tough. The runes can be tough. Be careful. But that is a place you can go early. Like the main game, runes always have a secret area. Just be aware. Every rune has 3 underground areas. So 2 of them you can have open entrances. You can just see there, wander down, you'll find some chests. Those aren't worth your time, in my opinion. They're traps. They're decoys to hide the actual treasure. Every rune has a hidden illusory floor, which you can roll over and will disappear. Now, sometimes this illusory floor will just disappear because people are throwing area effect spells or the boss is rolling around. So if you know, and then that location has 2 special chests. I don't know how to describe them, but there's a specific type of bluish chest, not bluish, but there's a higher level chest, and those will have talismans in it and higher level weapons. And just a quick rule of thumb, that illusory floor is close to the highest tower in every ruins. So if you go to see the highest tower, go down and explore. You might see the stairs leading down because the illusory floor has already been dispelled, or you might see an illusory, or you might see. If you're looking for it, you can tell it's an illusionary floor.
And main encampments, that's going to be where you find your general foot soldiers and the knights, and you might find like a pumpkin head. And those are always ones that we seem to stop by. Those generally seem worth your time.
They're important because a lot of them have specific elemental affiliations. Like if we're trying to, if the boss is vulnerable to fire, you'll definitely want to stop by these fire encampments, for instance. Some of them have no affiliation. What is there? There's a large variance, but there's a lot of chests. Importantly, also, there's bows for Iron Eye. That's where you find bows. Let's see. As I said, ruins, you can find talismans. The encampments are usually important, and they are usually worth your time. They're again something you can do levels 2 through 7. They can be difficult. In general, all these things are going to be too tough they can be too tough unless you're together with your party.
Always a good idea to stick together. Somewhere that I never play as a magic user, so when you find a sorcerer's rise, that is specifically going to be getting you magic-based stuff, correct?
Yeah, it really is the recluse sort of thing. Now, if you have a recluse, the recluse is the pure spellcaster class.
The witch.
The witch, yeah. And if you have a recluse in your party, you'll probably be interested in this. If you do have a recluse, then generally it's good for everyone to go into this. You kind of expect the recluse character to know how to unlock them. Once they've unlocked them, everyone should go inside, and then you can get some benefits. They can potentially help your character, but more likely you'll drop a benefit for your recluse. So at the top of the tower. It will have a kind of like the rises in the base game of Elden Ring. There'll be a puzzle to open them. This is something, if you play a recluse, you should figure out ahead of time. Because again, in the game, it's just panic, panic, panic. You don't have time to be figuring this out. So you should research this ahead of time if you play recluse. Also, if other characters, if they need more power, sustained power, they can go in and get a lot of starlight shards.
Yep.
They can find those. So these, you get staves, power-ups for the recluse mainly, and in general, starlight shards to help everyone with their power usage. If you are like, I suppose, if you're just a melee user who loves spamming your weapon art, you will have some interest in the Sorcerer's Rise as well.
Ways to get around the map: the Spectral Hawk Tree. This is going to be kind of like a glowing ethereal tree. This allows you to fast travel over large portions of the map, following fixed routes indicated by wispy lines.
Yeah, loosely indicated. You really kind of have to look at these. This is another thing which is not immediately clear, but there are some fast track taxis. Like you're airdropped in by these spectral hawks in the start of the game, but they will also help you mid-game if you go one of these spectral trees. It will then launch you pretty fast, and you can drop down onto forts sometimes, save sometimes. Like you can release yourself and fall down on a specific location if it's on their track. If you look at the map closely, you can tell where the paths are and what direction they're going. Again, not immediately obvious to new players. That is a way that you can traverse the map quickly, but in general, you have to have a pretty good reason to do that.
Yeah, because even then it takes a long time. And
it takes some time. So for instance, say the map only has one holy cathedral, and you need that holy damage. So you're like, okay, I guess we're doing this. I don't want to, but we've got to do it. So that's a scenario where you might do this, but don't just do it because you want the 5th or the 6th or the 7th Estus flask. You will definitely be hurting yourself. Chances of success if you do that.
Spirit streams are also another way. These vertical air currents allow you to quickly ascend to higher areas. These also exist in Elden Ring. This is a way to get from down low to up high, and another means to get on top of a fort or up high somewhere like on the castle and skip part of the way up.
Yeah, if they're near enough a fort, you can launch yourself on top of the fort, and you don't have to wend your way through it. They look a little different. They're not like a vortex. They're kind of like a blue updraft, and they have a blue marking on the wall. Unfortunately, that becomes masked once the Nightreign, which is also blue, covers it. I don't know if that added level of difficulty is intentional or not, but it makes traversing the world harder once the night flames overcome you.
In the center of the map is the largest default key location, and it's a castle consistently in the center, containing multiple mini bosses and chests, 4 levels: the sewers, the courtyard, the palisades, and the rooftop. This seems like when I know I'm deferring to you to a lot of this, but you have played so much more. This seems like when we were playing, we avoided this area early on.
Yeah, so we've discussed a lot of areas you can do levels 2 through 7. The castle is more like 5 through 11. So you can definitely go there underleveled, or the things there can be too tough, and it's just riskier. So if you feel confident, you can go to the sewer at level 5. There'll be some bosses you can beat there, and some you can't. And the palisades in the courtyard, there'll be sometimes you can, depending on your level, sometimes you can defeat what's there, sometimes you can't. So the castle is, in general, higher risks. There's a lot of rewards there as well.
And some other smaller locations and things that can happen. There's buried treasure. I think these maps can be revealed in forts, and these chests will provide marginally better loot. Does the buried treasure only exist if you find the map, or is it there regardless?
So it's there randomly every game. So there are various locations. Let's say every Limveld has 20 locations, and it's 7 of them at every game. They'll be at this treasure chest, and these chests look a little fancier. I guess we'll call them ornate chests. They do have higher level loot, and they have what are they called? Elixirs, special potions. Physics, that's what they are.
Yeah.
They'll have physic flasks.
Oh, but those are definitely worth your time.
Yeah. So these are revealed primarily, or at least for early players, they're revealed through the maps you find at the top of forts.
You'll find there's smaller camps, there's homesteads. These are just going to have kind of weaker various foes, loot chests. Lesser shrines will offer minor boons like HP, FP restoration, or temporary buffs. You will find scarab beetles that'll drop talisman. You can find those by maps as well, but you're going to run into them just running around as well, most likely. The Shrine of Offering is a rare shrine that offers powerful character-altering options with associated drawbacks. I don't know if I've ran into one of those.
So I think that's referring to the demon merchant.
Okay.
Libra, and when you play these games, there are a lot of random events that can happen. For better or worse, he's one of the most common, where it will say you've been cursed by a demon and you lose a full third of your maximum hit points. So basically, he blackmails you or coerces you to then run to him and pay him off. And once you pay him off, then you get his services for free. If he doesn't curse you, you can still sometimes find him. on the map, he's like a shrouded merchant icon. There are a scant few of his things which are worthwhile. Well, maybe we'll get into that more detail. So not all his things are bad, but most of them are. And he will curse you, and you do have to pay him off. Do not anger him until you've paid him off. It's not an option. Imagine going into any final boss in Elden Ring, any endgame boss like Radagon, with a third of your health gone. You stand no chance. So, and if he does curse you, the map will clearly mark where he is.
And there can also be, random like boss encounters and events. There was one time where the moth from, we'll talk about the Night Lords later, but there's one event where like the moth kind of took us to another realm.
Yeah, that's not the moth, that was Augur. But yeah, what's curious about this game, so there are a lot of exciting, great things about this game. One of them is that the Night Lords will sometimes invade your games and mess with you, even if you're not trying to fight them that time. So you were referring to the Augur's invasion, and if he invades you, then these huge bubbles will suck you into a boss encounter with him. And again, it will often suck your players one at a time, so you'll have this experience of fighting this boss solo, which is horrifying, until your other friends join you. Hopefully they will. You have to trust that they will. And there's a lot of ones like that. Also, that's how you fight. There's a lot of chance encounters, and a lot of them are exciting and fun, but a lot of them are also terrifying because you've never seen them before, because they're so rare. And some of them I have not even seen.
So I feel like we're going to be getting near the end of this episode. And before we wrap this up, what is just like a blanket statement? What is your best advice for understanding the map and working through the first couple days?
Okay, well, this is my best advice. You definitely can route a perfect path. You can have great strategy, but it doesn't matter if your team doesn't stick together. Whatever you do, as long as you're doing it together, you stand a better chance of success. So if you know what the boss's weaknesses ahead of time, you can aim towards that, but don't think that you know it better than your teammates, because even if you do, you're still going to lose if you leave them behind.
Yes.
That's the top level.
We're going to be back to do another overview on our next Elden Dogs, and that's going to be discussing, things like status effects, weapons, dormant powers, dying, Knight's Tide, relics, and kind of post-match things, like what you can expect for a day. And from there, we'll talk on other episodes about the various Night Lords and the bosses, and then there will be at least one deep episode discussing the lore, which there is quite a bit to take in. But super happy to have you on this journey with us, Executor. It's wonderful. Your knowledge is invaluable.
Thank you, and I hope to learn more as well. I earned through a lot of blood and tears and shouting at the TV. It is, as I said, so listening to this can in part prepare you. So it's important. A lot of preparation is important to make this game fun. And it is an exciting and fun game if you burrow your way down through all the ichor and the dross and the just black sludge of trying to learn how to play it, because it is very dark and very scary and very confusing, and it can be very frustrating. So I hope we can go on this journey together, and I hope we can encourage more people to play, and also warn people away who this game is not right for them at this moment.
And if our listeners wanted to find some of your work or perhaps follow you in some capacity, how could they do so?
Like many, I'm mostly disgusted by most social media platforms, but Blue Sky, I think, is my favorite. I'm AE Marling, and I suppose that can be linked in the show notes.
Yep.
And I write optimistic science fiction, which tries to imagine futures of shared abundance.
And do you have a certain book that you would recommend people maybe check out as a good entry point?
So I've written a few mystery novels set in a solar punk world, which again is this optimistic future. One is called Murder in the Tool Library, and the other one is called Missing Mermaid. And so whichever one strikes your fancy, that's the one you should look into.
And for our listeners, those will be in the show notes as well. And if you are on our Patreon, that means you'll be getting access to Elden Dogs episodes every week. And for our listeners on the main feed, if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you listen to, the Nightreign content will be once a month, and that'll be interspersed with the other Elden Ring content. So it'll be every 2 weeks there'll be an episode on the main feed for a little while. So it'll be Nightreign. 2 weeks later, it'll be back to the main stuff. 2 weeks later, back to Nightreign. And if you want access to all of that content much quicker, there's a lot of bonus stuff on Elden Dogs right now. Please check out patreon.com/hairofthedogcast to get access to it. There's free trials, which we do recommend. Special thanks to Patreon executive producers Rykard, Kristinik, Malakip, The Black Blade, Blackguard Big Brian Ward, Jordan Hoslow, Sorceress of Blood, Festering Fingerprint Phil Wright, Iron Fist, Red Bear Phil, Just Phil, thanks Tyler, Bell-Bearing Hunter Bryant Ross, Crucible Knight Kelly Gutowski, Justin Mellismer the Impaler, D-Man the Azula Beastman, Lady Freya herself, Spetsnaz the Fell Omen, and Ejot Blade of Mikola. Thank you so much for your support, and I can't wait to have you back in the Roundtable Hold in a couple weeks to discuss more Elden Ring.
Yeah, and if you are a patron and have access to that Discord, and you have knowledge of how to play this game, feel free to say hello and offer help to other people who might be there who need help. And if you are interested, tantalized about wandering into the darkness that is Nightreign, but you would like a guide, maybe that's a good place to ask for help as well, the Discord.
Yes, that would be a great spot. And all right, Executor, we're going to go on an expedition, and we will see you all next time here on Elden Dogs.
Yeah, I'm going to dive back into the Nightreign. I'm going to brave the night once more.
And I'm going to go clean up this mess of these Nightfarers because they are making a filthy, filthy pigsty of my Roundtable Hold. All right, we'll see you all next time.